So we're going to take the 8 values test. Now, apparently the 8 values test, which is sweeping the internet at the moment, is not literally sweeping it with a brush, obviously. That'd be a bit awkward because it's not a sentient being, and if it was, it probably wouldn't want to go around sweeping. But anyway, how can you sweep the internet anyway? I don't know, never mind. Anyway, I digress. Basically, the 8 values test is a test that's getting quite popular on the internet at the moment, and what it does is you feed it with a load of answers, and it will give you an idea of what your political ideology is. So I shall read these questions and I shall answer them, and then we shall see what it says about me. And if you want to go and try this for yourself, the link is in the description box below. Unless you're watching this on a mobile device, and then obviously you won't see the description because you'll be watching this on, well, on full screen. And before I forget, I wanted to point out I was going to do this on a computer, as many people would if they were going to screen capture this. But I've decided to do it on a mobile device because I don't know about you, but a lot of people I know, and certainly me, myself, I do watch a lot of my videos actually on a mobile device. Like if I'm on a bus or if I'm in bed or something like that, I will watch quite a lot of stuff on a mobile device. And I found that when you're watching videos on a mobile device, the text can be really small. If you're watching somebody that's just showing a web page on screen, like this is a web page, then what you find is that basically the text it'll look fine on a big screen like a TV or a monitor, but when you watch it on a smaller screen like a phone or a tablet, you find that it can be really, really small and very hard to read if you can read it at all. So I thought this way I will get the nearest equivalent it has to a mobile version of this site, and you're going to see on screen it's quite big, but at least you will be able to see it very well on a mobile device. So here we go. Okay. So, 8 values, instructions. You will be presented with a series of statements. For each one, click the button with your opinion on it. Got it. Oppression by corporations is as much, if not more, of a concern than oppression by governments. What do we think to that one? Oppression by corporations is as much, if not more, of a concern than oppression by governments. See, I'd disagree with that. I would disagree with that because you can avoid corporations to an extent, but you can't avoid your own government because they are the people that control every aspect of your life that can be controlled in the sense of laws and what you can and can't do legally. So obviously that is laws. Duh. You know what I mean? They control the government control the laws. They control the structures of your society. So you can't avoid the government. So no, I would say that oppression by government is much more of a problem. So oppression by corporations is as much, if not more, of a concern than oppression by governments. I would have to disagree with that. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect citizens. Yes, I would strongly agree with that. The freer the markets, the freer the people. Again, I would strongly agree with that. Publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. Yeah, I'd agree with that. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Yeah, I would say agree. It would be best if social programs were abolished in favour of private charity. No, I disagree with that. I think we do need social programs because, and I'm not a socialist before anyone asks, but I do think certain things like social security, for example. I have been unemployed in the past, and social security was there for me when I needed it. And then there's other social programs that other people need. So I think where it says it would be best if social programs were abolished in favour of private charity, I don't think private charity could provide the funding needed for a lot of the social programs. So no, I would disagree with that. In fact, I'd strongly disagree with that. So let's scroll down. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. See, now I'm a bit at odds with that because I do think people that are rich should pay a little bit more. A little bit more. But again, if you tax people that are rich, you're going to put people off of wanting to be rich. And you're going to put people off of wanting to be rich. And let's be honest, the more rich people there are, the more taxes are going to be paid anyway, because they're going to be earning more. So for each pound, you're going to be paying, tax. So even if you paid it at the same rate, you're earning more, you're going to pay more. So I would say, I would disagree, to be honest. Inheritance and capital gains are legitimate forms of wealth. Yes, I would strongly agree. Public utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned. Again, I strongly agree with that, because look at the mess that's happened in Britain with basically with, for example, British Rail, when British Rail got sold off. So, yeah, I would say that's a strongly agree answer, that one. Those with a greater ability to pay should receive better healthcare. No, I strongly disagree with that. I think everyone should have the equal right to healthcare, and they should have the equal level of care. Adequate education is a right of all people. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's scroll down a little bit. It's off the screen. The means of production should belong to the workers who use them. No, I disagree. Shouldn't always have to. The United Nations should be abolished. See, recently the United Nations recently has been pretty shit. Excuse my language. The United Nations has become almost a bit of a joke. They don't seem to do much. But they used to. I'm sure they still do some good, so I'll disagree. Military intervention is often necessary to protect the nation. I'd agree that not often necessary, but sometimes. So I'll say sometimes. Yeah, I'll agree, but not often, but sometimes. It is more important to retain peaceful relations than to further our strength. Again, I think you should have peaceful relations with other countries, but should you do that at the expense of being strong militarily? Because if somebody did choose to attack you, you do need to be able to defend yourself. You can't always rely on being a member of NATO, for example. I'd say unsure, to be honest. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. No. I definitely disagree with that. You should, if you're going to go to war with another country, anywhere, then yeah, you should be able to justify why you're going to war with a particular country. You should be able to justify that to any other country. You shouldn't be just going to war. If you can't justify a war, don't bloody go to it. So, where it says wars do not need to be justified with other countries, no, they do. So I strongly disagree. Right, let's scroll back up to the top. Military spending is a waste of money. No, I disagree. International aid is a waste of money. It is sometimes, but it also does do some good, so I would say I disagree. My nation is the best in the world. No, my nation is the best in the world. No, my nation is not the best in the world. Research should be conducted on an international scale. Well, yeah, surely that just makes logical sense. Strongly agree with them. Governments should be accountable to the international community. Not for the everyday running of the country. No. But when it comes to something like a war, if a government starts a war, then maybe, yes, they should be accountable, but in everyday life, the decisions the governments take to run the country and to provide well, basically, no. I don't think they should be accountable to the international community. So I would disagree. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. I agree. My religion should be spread by force if necessary. Well, I haven't got a religion, I'm an atheist, but no, it still shouldn't be spread by force, no. My political ideology should be spread by force if necessary. Again, no. If somebody wants to have a completely different opinion to me or a completely different belief to me, they should be completely free to have that, just the same as I should in contrast to what they believe or think. So no, I would disagree. Law and order should be maintained at all costs. I wouldn't say all costs, there are some limits, but I would agree in general that you do need law and order, so I agree with them. Political elites are necessary as the general populace makes bad decisions. No, I disagree with that. A victimless crime, such as drug use, should not be a crime at all. See, now, is there such a thing really as a victimless crime? I mean, if there was a victimless crime that literally did not affect anyone, then yeah, I would agree. But I don't believe there is something. I don't really believe there is such a thing as a victimless crime. And oddly enough, I would actually say, in the case of drug use, I do think people should be able to take drugs. I think people should be able to smoke weed if they want to smoke weed. You know, if that's what they want to do, that's fine by me. But again, there should be limits, like there is for drink. So yeah, drug use should be legalized, but there should be limits, because if you have a certain amount of drugs, like if you have a certain amount of drink, and you go out and drive, for example, you are putting other people at risk, not just yourself. So I would disagree, because I don't think there's such a thing as a victimless crime. But then again, I do agree drugs should be legal, so taking drugs shouldn't be a crime. I can see the argument for both ways. To be honest, drug use, I agree with people being able to take drugs, but then again, as long as they take it to limits. So if they're taking it to the limits, yeah, okay, I'd agree. Terrorism is a major threat, and some civil liberties must be sacrificed to prevent it. No. No, 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 no. Hell no. No, you should never sacrifice civil liberties to prevent terrorism, because then the terrorists have won. If you change your society because of terrorism, the terrorists have won. No, civil liberties are important. I think personally, I think things like freedom of speech, for example, has already been so encroached upon. There's so many things you can't talk about now without being threatened with hate speech, etc. You know, no, I strongly disagree. Should never give up for civil liberties. Okay, government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. While I don't think they should be monitoring like they are now in Britain, I don't think that they should be monitoring what you do on the internet, who you're phoning up, etc. Not that kind of surveillance. I think that's a bit too intrusive. But yeah, some government surveillance is necessary. I think, like, for example, some government surveillance is necessary. I mean, even if it's just watching CCTV and following suspicious people. So yeah, I'd agree that some government surveillance is necessary. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. No, that's just dumb. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. No. No. If my country do something that is wrong, I'm going to disagree. So, no. No authority should be left unquestioned. Strongly agree. Should always question authority. A strongly hierarchical state is most efficient. Yeah, I think logically, at least as far as I see it, if you've got a hierarchy, then that makes sense to me. Yeah, I would say a strongly hierarchical state is most efficient. Yeah, I think because you have to have a hierarchy, because otherwise you couldn't delegate certain responsibilities and tasks to other people. You have to have somebody at the top in charge, then people below them in charge, and so on. You have to have a hierarchy, yeah. I would agree. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. See, now this doesn't specify what it means. Does it mean that if everybody thought that people should be executed if they commit a murder and are imprisoned for a murder, does it mean that if the public thought, yeah, anyone that's charged with and found guilty of murder should be executed, they should be executed, so that's what we'll do because the majority of the public think it's right. Should they do that? No, because if you kill someone, to execute somebody, and then you find out years later they were innocent, you can't bring them back. It's one of the main reasons why I disagree with the death penalty, because there's been lots and lots, there's been a load of cases, not just in Britain when we did have the death penalty, but also in America where they do have the death penalty in quite a lot of states. There's been a lot of cases where people have been found guilty of a crime, been executed, and then a while later it's turned out they're innocent. Well, it's too bloody late then, isn't it? But if it means that the government follows the majority opinion when it comes to things like, for example, a referendum like we had in Britain, we had the European Union, or as everyone calls it, the Brexit referendum, then yeah, I would agree that in that case, if it's an opinion expressed in a referendum where the government has specifically asked for the majority opinion, then yes. But then again, who decides if it's right or wrong? When you take Brexit, there's like basically half the country think it's right, half the country think it's wrong. I would say agree, but only assuming that the question is relating to basically it is important that the government follows the majority opinion when it has asked for it through a referendum or similar mechanism. Yes. The stronger the leadership, the better. I would agree. Democracy is intrinsically valuable as more than a decision-making process. Yes, I would agree with that. Environmental regulations are essential. Again, I would agree with that. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. See, I would strongly agree with that. I can't imagine there are many people who can genuinely say, the world 100 years ago was better for us to live in than it is now. The more advances we make in, not automation, but the more, well, I suppose some people would argue automation as well, but the more advances we make, particularly in science and technology, then yeah, the better the world becomes. Yeah, I strongly agree. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. Not religious, so no, I would disagree. Irrational traditions should be abolished. No, see, it depends what point of view you're looking at, because I'm not a Christian and I don't believe in Jesus Christ. I don't believe in God. So from my point of view, Christmas is an irrational tradition. Easter is an irrational tradition. If you're not a Muslim, then the celebrations that the Muslims have are irrational traditions. But I don't think we should go around banning irrational traditions. If they're an established tradition, why should we ban it just because we disagree with it? And having said that, I just realised I should phrase what I say better, because I don't actually disagree with Christmas and I don't disagree with Easter, etc. What I mean is, if I don't believe a tradition, I don't believe it should be abolished just because it's irrational. If it's not hurting anyone, no. So I disagree with that. Religion should play a role in government. Strongly disagree. Churches should not be exempt from taxes. I strongly agree. Climate change is Climate change is either not real or not man-made. Well, at the risk of alienating people watching this, I would say that climate change is real. I don't believe it's all man-made. I do think that man has a big impact on it, so I would disagree, to be honest. I would disagree. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. I would agree to an extent, I suppose. Society was better many years ago than it is now. It depends what society you're talking about, really. I mean, we can all look back and say, when I was a kid, when I was a kid, we could go out and play in the streets without worrying about people coming along and trying to snatch the kids and stuff and stupid things like that or whatever. Or we could leave our front doors open or leave them unlocked, whatever. Maybe some of that to an extent is true, but then you've got to look at the other things. I mean, you take women's rights, for example, go back 100 years. Society, women's rights, at least in the UK, not as good as they are today. Health and wealth wise, it was a hell of a lot worse situation for everybody in society than it is now. So, no, I don't agree society was better years ago than it is now. No, I would disagree. It is important that we stay connected to our past. Now, that I would agree with. But then again, I'm quite a big history fan because I do believe that history does, and it's a bit of a cliche, but I do believe history does repeat itself. And I do think it's important that we stay connected to our past. You don't want to lose touch with your past because your past helps make you the people that you are. So, yeah, I think it's important that we stay connected to our past. It is important that we think in the long term beyond our lifespans. For some things, yeah, for some things, no. So I'd agree. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Oh, that's a tricky one. Reason is important, but your culture is important too. I'd have to say neutral on that one. Drug, drug use is very late at night at the moment, sorry. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. I agree. Same-sex marriage should be legal. Yeah, I agree. Sex outside marriage is immoral. Strongly disagree. Abortion should be prohibited. No, I would have to say disagree because although I don't agree with abortions, I do think people should have the right to have them, even though I don't really agree that people should be able to just go and say, like, I don't know, go down the nightclub, forget to use a condom, get pregnant, and go, fuck it, I'm going to have an abortion. No, I don't agree with that behaviour, but there are situations where you do need to have an abortion. For example, if somebody's been raped, I would understand them wanting to have an abortion and not keep the baby, or if the health is at risk, or basically that kind of situation. So I would disagree. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. Now, I don't live in America, and I personally would not want people to have guns over here in the same amount as they do in America. So I would actually agree with that. I mean, if I was in America, I would be saying, fine, everybody should be allowed to have guns as long as they've had checks and stuff. I've not got a problem with gun ownership in general, but I live in the United Kingdom, and as a society, we don't have guns just readily available. And I would like it to stay that way because, to be fair, I quite like the fact that I'm not as likely to die from a gunshot as a knife wound. So, if that makes sense. So, no, gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. I agree, but only in terms of my own country. I support single-payer universal healthcare. I think that's an American thing. We have the NHS, but I support universal healthcare, so yeah, okay. I support the European Union. No, I don't. Disagree. Communism isn't as bad as people say it is. I would disagree, but I'm not going to get into it. I would disagree. Fascism isn't as bad as people say it is. Again, I would disagree. It is very bad. Capitalism isn't as bad as people say it is. It can be. I'd have to agree, though. I'm more of a capitalist than the other two, so yeah, I would say I would have to agree. All peoples, all people, cultures, worldviews, genders. There's only two bloody genders. You're gonna pull this shit again, aren't you? Genders as in like more than two. This is what you're gonna pull on it. Come on. All people, cultures, worldviews, genders, sexualities, and economic classes should be treated equally. See, basically, why can't you just say everyone should be treated equally? I agree, everyone should be treated equally. Doesn't mean they're all right in the sense of, Yeah, I would say I'm not going to get into that. It's too complicated, but it's too complicated a topic to just lump everything in and say all people, cultures, worldviews, genders, sexualities, and economic classes should be treated equally. Because in certain situations, there's some that shouldn't, but as a principle, I think all people should be treated equally, so I would agree. It is important that we further our ethnic, cultural, or economic groups' goals above all others. No, it's not. Okay, what does it say about me? My economic axis is well, there you go. I'd agree with that. And I'm an egalitarian. So there you go. Apparently, I am an egalitarian. I'm a balanced diplomat. I'm a liberal. I'm progressive. There we go. Let's have a look. Closest match to my political ideology is social liberalism. Ideological matching is a work in progress and is much less accurate than the values and axes. You can send these results by copying and pasting the URL at the top of the page or using the image below. Let's have a look. So, egalitarian. Let's actually have a look at these, shall we? Tradition or progress? Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I would say socially, yeah, progressive social society. Yeah, I would agree with that. Societal axis progressive. Yeah, I'd agree that I'm liberal to quite a point. Yeah, diplomatically balanced. That's a good thing, surely. Economically egalitarian. To be honest, that's actually I'd say that's pretty accurate. Actually, I would say that's pretty accurate. Peace or let's just scroll up these and there you go. So tradition or progress, and I've gone for progress, yeah. Authority or liberty. Peace or might. Just tipped in the balance of peace, which again pretty much sums up my approach. I think there are times when you do need to use might, but more often than not, I would say you need peace than military might. So yeah, I'd agree with that as well. And equality over wealth. Yeah, again, I think that's because of the questions on society and things like social services and stuff. I would agree with that. Well, there we go. So overall, I think it was actually quite accurate, to be honest. Seemed to be quite a very decent balanced test. So I would agree with that. I would agree. Just having a look through it again, to be honest. Yeah, I'd agree with that. So there we go. That is the 8 values test. And it is very, very late while I'm recording this, and I have work in the morning. Well, it's already the morning, but I have work in a few hours, so I better go. So, good night, unless you're watching this in the morning, and then good morning, and if you're watching it in the afternoon, good afternoon, and if you're watching this at night time and you're about to go to bed, good night. Don't have nightmares. Do sleep well. No, seriously, ciao for now, basically. Goodbye. Catch you again. I don't know what to say. How do I end this video? I have no bloody idea. I'll tell you what. Catch you later.